right? Wrong. That's wrong. That's not the way that therapy is supposed to work. Okay, hi everybody. So we're redoing another one of our old videos. I am super excited about this one because this video did not get the attention that it deserved when I originally posted it. So yeah, basically I'm making a case for why you as the client should be or are allowed to be bossing your therapist around. A lot of people are confused about this idea and seem to have misunderstandings about therapy and the sort of power dynamics that exist within it. And so I want to talk about that from my perspective as a therapist, also from my perspective as a consumer in therapy. And yeah, that's it. All right, so let's just get into it. So when we're talking about the idea of power dynamics in therapy, basically what this means is that usually as a consumer of therapy, you walk into the room with the assumption that your therapist is the expert, right? That this is the person who's sort of setting the agenda, who makes the rules, and who, is kind of running the show, right? Wrong. That's wrong. That's not the way that therapy is supposed to work. The way that therapy ideally is supposed to work is that you as the client are the one who is supposed to be making the decisions about the things that you want to work on. This is for a number of reasons. The first of which is that as a therapist, I have obviously degrees and a certain amount of expertise about like how to do this, right? Like how to help people, but I don't know your life. I don't know what kind of life you're going home to at the end of the day. I don't know what your family life looks like. Obviously, I don't know what's going on inside your head. And so for me to set the goals for you, I'm basically just going to be fumbling around in the dark. So I might be able to come up with something that's like sort of vague and generic, but there is no way that I'll be able to set any kind of meaningful goal for a client without their input. There's a cat here, it's fine, we're just gonna roll with it. The other reason that this is really important is that as the client, you're the one who's paying for a service, right? And especially therapy is very personal. Therapy is a very intimate and unique kind of personal relationship. And so if you're gonna show up, you're gonna pay the money, you're gonna spill your guts to a complete stranger, it's really important that you feel like you're addressing the things that are important to you. Because as a therapist, let's say you come in and you say, oh, I'm just so disorganized, I really struggle with motivation and follow through on my projects. I guess I just have a guest star today. And let's say you say that to me, and as a therapist, I latch onto this idea of you struggling to finish projects. And so I set a goal for you to learn how to be an effective planner and how to finish these projects, right? As a client, you might have been like, okay, but I just said that as like an aside, like that's not really what I care about. And so then as a therapist, if I'm setting this goal for you and I'm like, okay, so let's talk about how to achieve goals, and you're like, actually, I'm here to talk about this wicked childhood trauma that I have. And I'm like, no, but the planning though. See how that's a problem? It's important for clients to be able to voice what's actually important to them and the things that you actually want to work on. In my intake speech, when I have new clients, I let everybody know therapy can absolutely be a vehicle for change, but somebody's got to drive the car and it's not going to be me. It's important that clients feel like they're empowered and that they're in the driver's seat in that sense because it's not about me. It doesn't matter what I think somebody should or should not be doing. What matters is that a person feels like they're making forward momentum on the things that matter to them, especially because you're paying for a service. So I want to encourage you guys, not all therapists obviously voice that to their clients, and not all therapists necessarily think that way, but you are allowed as a consumer, as the person who's paying for a service, you're allowed to say, this is the stuff that I want to work on. You keep talking about this thing or this subject. I don't want to talk about that. That's not relevant to me. That's not helpful to me. I would much rather talk about this. And you can do this in a kind and compassionate way. You don't necessarily have to be like rude or like bullying about it. But even if you are, your therapist's job is to learn how to redirect that behavior and to have a conversation about clinically appropriate ways to redirect your therapeutic goals. Your therapist should never be mad at you. Your therapist should never ever act out at you or be butthurt or be pissy with you because you try to redirect the conversation or to set goals for yourself. If your therapist does that to you, A, you can find another therapist. B, you can call that into the room and say, wow, you seem really personally offended that I asked for you to redirect the conversation here. I don't like that. Or, you can call it into the room or talk about it in another way. But again, you as the client, first of all, are paying for a service. And so you have a right to work on the things that you want to work on. But also B, it's not your therapist's job to set goals for you. It is your therapist's job to help you vocalize those goals and to flesh out what that means and to sort of guide you along that process. But your therapist should not just be picking shit out of the dark for you to accomplish on your own. The other reason that it's really important for clients to feel allowed to voice their opinion in therapy is because the therapeutic relationship is personal, right? You are disclosing all of this scary personal stuff about your real life to a stranger. And so there's a certain amount of vulnerability required with that. Therapists are supposed to do their best to be trustworthy and to be non-judgmental and to be safe people, but therapists are still people. We still carry biases into the room and we're still imperfect. Sometimes therapists say things that are kind of not cool. And so it's not impossible for a therapist to accidentally hurt your feelings, or maybe to say something that made you feel some type of way, or for your therapist to like accidentally trigger you, for example. When we're talking about, a client's right to feel empowered in therapy, that's why this is so important, because you as a client should always feel comfortable to tell your therapist, hey, you said something just then and I really didn't like it, or you said something earlier and it brought up this memory for me, or it made me feel this way, or, even to tell your therapist, like, to me, you're being really rude, or you hurt my feelings and I didn't like it, or like, why are you talking to me that way? You're allowed to say these things in therapy, again, because first of all, even if you fly off the handle at your therapist and you try to set a boundary in a really aggressive and mean way, your therapist is still the professional in the room and should never, ever, ever get sucked into that like back and forth argument with you. One of the things that I tell all my clients if they get angry with me is that, like, okay, it seems like you're angry. Are you angry at me or are you angry at the situation? It's cool if you're angry at me, I can take it, that's my job, but it's important for me to clarify because I want to know if I did something wrong. So please always feel comfortable to tell your therapist, I didn't like that, you hurt my feelings, wow, you're being super bitchy, this is not really cool, please stop saying things like that, because again, you're paying for a service, but ultimately too, therapy is built on this foundation of trust and this feeling of safety. And so if you don't even feel safe enough to tell your therapist, you hurt my feelings, I didn't like that, that's not cool, it's really difficult for you to make progress talking about even more vulnerable, even more scary things, especially trauma. And so your therapeutic relationship is really not going to progress if you don't feel safe and you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel heard and seen. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful to you guys, and I hope that it helps you to feel a little bit more empowered and a little bit more like allowed to say the things that you want to say, and basically to say anything that comes to your mind in therapy and to your therapist, because you're allowed to do that. It's not mean or bitchy or rude. And again, ultimately you're paying for a service, and so you get to call the shots there. So yeah, if you guys like this video, like the video and then subscribe to the channel. We do educational content like this, but we also do some fun stuff, some therapist react stuff. And we have some therapist reacts to TikTok videos coming out soon, or maybe they're already up. If they're up, I'll stick them up here or up there somewhere. But yeah, subscribe to the channel, share the video to help the channel grow and to help each other grow. And I will see you next Friday. Okay, bye.